Reddit comments, what's the best accidental no clothes you've seen?
Like and subscribe, or else these'll be in your bed tonight.
To walk to my neighbor's place to pick him up for school. I had a car and he didn't yet. We were both juniors in high school. His sister was a senior with late arrival, so she was usually just getting up and ready when we were leaving. I was standing in his kitchen a little earlier than normal because on Fridays we'd hit up McDonald's or the bakery before school. His sister walks out of the shower while drying her hair, completely. I couldn't do anything but freeze and stare for a full 2 seconds before she realized I was standing there, and she half screamed, half laughed, and I shouted sorry as she ran to her bedroom. I didn't say anything to anyone about it, but we had a physics class together every other day and she came in that day red-faced and still giggling. She was a real sport about it. I used to work room service in a hotel. It wasn't that uncommon for people to answer the door in very little. One time this woman answered wearing just a robe, which fell open when she went to take the tray from me. I also worked in a hotel for a bit. I was 17 and worked in the kitchen as a dishwasher, but part of the job was doing random jobs for the front desk. So one evening I'm asked to take a mini fridge up to a room. Mid-90s and fridges were still a luxury in our hotel. In the room was a visiting girls softball team hanging out in their pajamas. There was some pretty sweet pajamas. Then one came out of the shower with just a towel and another girl, God bless her, yanked it off her in front of me. There was screaming, laughing, swearing, and me getting shoved out, and the door slammed. Good time. School. There was this girl who matured much earlier than the other girls. It was a big pool party and my buddy and I were sitting in the hot tub. It was a raised hot tub attached to the pool. Well, the girl I mentioned earlier climbs from the pool and into the hot tub. Only her bathing suit top didn't make it all the way. She looked down and realized it and dove back over the wall into the pool. My buddy and I just looked at each other and kind of giggled like middle school idiots. This question was meant for me. Was working on a project in college with a group of 3 other people. We shared our files on Google Docs. I was sitting next to the girl in my group and asked her to open our project file on Google Docs. She opens her Google Docs and all of her pictures were there. There were at least 10. She was so embarrassed. Took the family boat out to the lake one summer. Me, 2 buddies and 5 girls. We all jumped in to cool off. I was hanging onto the back of the boat and one of the girls, a redhead, started climbing the ladder next to me to get back in. Her bikini was a little loose. I saw all. And yes, the carpets matched the drapes. Last year, the day after my fiance's sister's wedding, I, in all my still drunken glory, go back to my hotel room to pack up after breakfast. I get to the room and the door was cracked open. Thinking it was just housekeeping or something, I walk in. There's a blonde woman, probably mid-40s, standing right in front of the door. She stares at me. I stare back. I say sorry and she carries on with her business. I walk out of the room only to realize I'm on the wrong floor. Didn't seem to bother her a bit. I saw it in high. End of the year celebration at the auditorium ended and we all went home early. This group of girls were all play fighting, trying to trip each other and pants one another. They were a grade below mine. Well, one girl was successful and pulled down the skirt of this very voluptuous white chick and she wasn't wearing any. Man, she turned so red, but that badunk was perfect. I was in show choir in high school and during a rehearsal for a production, the opening speech ends with a bow. The girl doing the speech was wearing a dress that normally would have been just fine, but she was rather well endowed. Yeah, the girls dropped out when she took the bow and of course she shot up to cover them. Luckily it was just me and the director in the auditorium and everyone else was behind the curtain. I was a junior, she was a senior. It was my first view of melons. I had a massive crush on her. She made a joke about it to me at Applebee's later that night. Easily the 9th of September 10. Okay, I've got to that. Our memorable one was working on some wiring at a house and the girl came home and either didn't notice me or didn't care. Proceeded to strip off and shower while I was in the bedroom. Then came back, dries off, gets dressed and leaves, and never even acknowledged I was in there the whole time. 2. Was after dinner at a restaurant when I noticed the lady about 2 tables from me was wearing a short skirt with nothing under. She was sitting with her knees spread, and I had a perfect view from about 10 feet away. I thought stuff like that only happened in movies. Walking to school on a soggy morning, saw my art teacher in her minivan changing her clothes. Normally, you can't really see into the side passenger area windows well, because they were semi-tinted a deeper color, but it just stopped raining a bit earlier and the sun came through the clouds and shined down on the car, lighting it and the area in general up very bright, and I could see right into the car window. God works in mysterious ways. I install security alarms, cameras, sensors, locks. On one install I placed a camera in the master bedroom like the husband had asked. While I was still there installing, I was checking the cameras and finishing up the tests, and the wife came out of the bathroom completely from the shower. I hastily tried to exit the screen, but the husband, who was peering over my shoulder, told me not to and just stared at his wife while I was in between him and the screen. My dad lived a few towns over from my mom, so I didn't really know anyone in his neighborhood. I was about young at the time, and there was a high school girl that lived across the street from him. She'd get changed almost every night in front of her big open windows, and I watched every time I was there. The cheerleaders lived across the street from me in college. Every day my roommate and I would sit on the front porch, have a smoke, and wait for the cheerleaders to get home from practice. One would always change with her windows open, and we just sat and watched, thinking she never realized the curtains were open. Then one day she waved to us and blew us a kiss. Cue the debate. Do we go over? What should we do? What if she just wants you and not me? What if she wants both of us? What did y'all decide on? Warcraft 3. Well, this reminds me, when I was doing long distance with my ex, we'd send each other non-PG photos. She requested pictures of my sausage roll quite often. She really got off on those. Well, she selected her favorite picture of mine and put his as my contact picture, even after I came back from living abroad. I knew it was a bad idea, as it would show every time I rang her. Of course, the upside was that she'd always be when I rang her. Well, one day at the family dinner table, she's telling everyone how she wants a new phone. Her mom, dad, sister and me were there. Her dad just looks up to me and says, "You reckon she'll install a different contact picture for you on her new phone?" I used to work in an electronics store. We regularly had promo staff and reps in on the weekends to sell their stuff in store. This particular weekend we had 3 models in promoting some camera or other. Late afternoon I go into the customer collections room where reserved stock is kept to look for an item. As I'm clearly in there looking for something, these 3 girls burst in and start stripping off their branded dresses to change and go home. In shock I say, "Do you want me to go out?" And they're like, "Nah, it's okay." Then some checkout girl comes in and laughs, gasps, and drags me out. Gutted. Was at an indoor water park waiting in line for the attraction that simulates surfing. Florida, I think. Well, there was this really cute girl up, and she bails face first. Now if you know of these attractions, you know that there is a lot of force behind the water. As it turns out, it is enough force to completely remove a person's bikini, both top and bottom. Must have been really embarrassing for her, but I liked the piercings. I was dating a twin for a short period of time. They still lived with their parents and shared a bedroom. My twin was taking a shower, so I was just chilling in the living room. The parents were out of town for the weekend, so the twins and I had the house to ourselves. The boyfriend of the other twin would come over at a later point that night, but wasn't there yet. After finishing a show on TV, I walked upstairs to go see if she was ready showering, and when I walked into the bedroom I saw her as the day she was born, and I approached her from behind. I cupped her big and smelled her wet hair and was about to tell her how nice it smelled when she said, "Wrong twin." Out of shock we both stayed like that for 2 or 3 seconds. Then I backed off and asked her never happened. She agreed, and so we've never told my twin. Well, that was almost 10 years ago, and we were only dating for a couple of months, so by now she must have told her, I guess. It was a warm but blustery day on vacation in Burlington, Vermont. As I was eyeballing this gorgeous girl in a flowery sundress, I came to the realization that light flowery dress was a bold move on such a windy day. This led to some mental imaging as to what a perfect gust may expose. I'm not a religious man, But I'll be damned if the Lord didn't answer my prayer with a blast of wind that exposed the bad unk of an angel at that exact moment. She didn't even flinch and continued her confident stride down the sidewalk as her dress returned to normal and I was left picking my jaw off the floor.